Hi there, I'm Emily Lay, and I am so grateful and honored to be part of this fantastic event. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. Today, I am excited to share a little bit about my story as a small business owner in Florida, and also a couple of examples that have inspired me in my journey along the way as the CEO of Simplified for the past 13 years. Before I get started, I'll give you a little bit of background on myself and the organization that I founded in 2008. I graduated from the University of West Florida in Pensacola with a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's degree in English writing. I knew after I graduated that I wanted to pursue a career that allowed me to be part of my community, that allowed me to really flex my creative muscles and work hard at something that was really, really meaningful. I had a very corporate career for a couple of years and then decided that I was going to go out on my own and create my own company. I was a newlywed in 2008, and I felt very overwhelmed by all of the busyness of life. I was trying to manage a career, trying to manage a home, trying to manage big dreams and goals for myself, and I wanted to create something that would empower and inspire women like myself to make big things happen in their lives. So I started, as many small businesses start, in my guest room with a stack of cardstock and a printer, and I started making stationery and then later notepads. I took on client work, designing logos for banks, anything I could get my hands on to help grow my company. My company is called Simplified, and over the past 13 years, it has grown from a guest room project while I went to my full-time job during the day and worked on this at night. It has grown from that into a fantastic multi-million-dollar company that impacts tens of thousands of women around the world each year. Simplified now is an organization that provides planners and organizational tools for busy women. But we didn't just create a planner company. In 2011, when my first son was born, I found myself again in a state of overwhelm, trying to manage all of the things that life required of me. I was wearing many hats. I was running a growing company. I had a newborn baby boy on my hip and a laptop on the other, and I just needed a tool that would help me achieve a fresh start, that would help me manage all of the things that I loved so dearly and help me do all of those things well. So as one does, I went to Target. Looking for this tool in the aisles, and everything I found felt very complicated. I felt like everything had boxes to check and things to fill out, and basically made me feel a little bit more like a failure. And I was looking for something that would really give me space to manage my schedule and my to-do list. And so I went home, I got to work packing up orders for Simplified, was packing up some notepads and some little organizational tools and thought, I need a day planner. I need something that is tangible, that I can hold in my hands, that I can take with me everywhere I go, and I can manage all of these things in it. But I need it to be really simple. And so using a binder and a Sharpie and notebook paper, I sketched out what my planner would look like. And little by little, I created what is now known as the beloved Simplified Planner, which is used by women all over the world. The Simplified Planner really took off at that point in 2011. The company grew extremely quickly, not just because the planner was bright and bold and beautiful and well-made, but because rather than just creating a planner company, which there are many companies that sell office products out there, rather than just creating something like that, I wanted to create an organization that would equip and empower and inspire our customers and our users. I wanted the women who used the Simplified Planner in all of our products to feel connected and supported and inspired to really live a simplified life. And that has been our secret sauce. So I am just so excited to be here. I'm excited to tell you a little more about my journey, and I am looking forward to digging into what it means to have purpose, to do well with planning, and to pivot when the time is right. Simplified is now a company with over 150 products in our online store. We also have licensed collections with At a Glance in Target, Walmart, Office Depot, and Staples internationally. Okay, let's dig in. As we all know, we have been through a lot this past year as small business owners. It has been uncertain, it has been trying, it has been difficult. And what I want to talk about today is how we thrive during the most uncertain of times. When things like COVID happen, when the pandemic started, when any crisis of any sort hits, it's easy for us to freeze and to panic. I know I did. I felt extremely nervous having made a planner and running a planner company during a year when many people's plans got canceled. So, if you are feeling the stress of the past year, I want you to know I get it. I'm here for you. And I have some really good tactical tips for us to talk through, and also some examples of some other companies that have really done this crisis well, that have navigated it really well, and have done some things and made some decisions that we can learn from as we go on into the future. Now, first and foremost, I want to talk about purpose. As I mentioned, Simplified is not just a planner company. The reason we have been so successful is not just because our planners are beautiful and high quality. It's because we have really made the experience of shopping Simplified, of being a Simplified customer, we've made it a really robust and rich thing. Our women who come and shop with us, they don't just receive a planner, they receive 12 months of coaching videos that follow them along for the life of that planner so that they can truly get the most out of it. Our why at Simplified, our why is that we want to equip and empower women. We want to bring women together in community, and we believe that living simplified is the best way. We believe simple is best. That is our why. Now, taking a step backward and examining purpose, not just for your organization and your business, but for yourself personally, is so important, not just during a crisis, but at any point. Understanding that and being proud of your why, of your organization's why, being very clear on that is so crucial. Not just to your understanding throughout your organization, but also in the messaging you're putting out to your consumers and potential customers. So our company's why is simply that. My personal why may not be as fancy or robust as Simplified's, but my personal why, the reason why I founded Simplified, the reason why I continue to run Simplified, is because I wanted to have flexibility as a mom. That's it. It was never about being in Forbes, writing best-selling books, owning a multi-million-dollar company. For me, I created Simplified so that I could have flexibility as a mom and so that I could simplify our own lives so that I could focus on what matters most to us, which is family. And so I bet for many of you, your purpose may be something similar. Maybe your purpose for starting your company or for working in the company that you're in, maybe your purpose is something very specific and very personal. But I think it's so important as we kick off this discussion for us to take a step back and look at those reasons, look at that purpose, and make sure we are clear on what it is. And here's what's so interesting about our purpose. When we know it, when we really, really know that purpose, that, why do I put my feet on the floor every morning? Why am I going up against hard things to keep this thing afloat? Why do I do what I do and want to do it well? When we know what that is, it does not change. It doesn't. No matter how big the company gets, no matter how successful we are, our purpose, our why does not change. So that is how you know that you've landed on it, that you've discovered it, that you've uncovered it. If you think you're there and you know what your purpose is, keep peeling back layers. See if there's a way to make the statement simpler. See if there's a way to really chip away at this why so that you can get down to the diamond underneath there. The really core, specific reason why you personally do this and why your company exists in the first place. When you know that thing, when you know what your core is, you will be able to make decisions quicker. You'll be able to pivot faster. You'll be able to plan easier. And all of these things become streamlined because you have a hard line in the sand. This is my why. This is what I will protect unapologetically. This is why I do what I do. And you may own a plumbing company, but your why may have absolutely nothing to do with plumbing. It may have to do with providing for your family. It may have to do with serving people well. So whatever that is, write it down, know what it is, stick it on the wall, have it somewhere where you see it every day, because when you are fully connected to that, then you can make good choices in the good times and good choices in the hard times. Okay. Now, the most important thing to do once a crisis happens is to evaluate where you are. Don't panic. It's easy to panic when things start to feel upside down, as they did last year. When things start to feel upside down, as if everything is on its head, it is easy for us to flail, and it's easy for us to panic and start thinking worst case scenario. Instead, I want to challenge you during situations like that to plant your feet firmly where you are, to evaluate everything around you. What do we know? What is happening? What are the potentials that could happen? What are we doing well right now? What is at risk? What are our strengths? What are our opportunities here? So evaluate everything. Evaluate where you are. Now this works in a global pandemic. This also works when you feel like you have hit a wall. A lot of times we find ourselves at different points in our careers and our lives at those crossroads where it's time to make a change. You feel like there's an opportunity looming, but it might involve some risk. Maybe it's a particularly difficult season and you need to decide which way to turn. I'd like to share a story quickly that happened to me with Simplified in 2017. I had just released my second book into the world, A Simplified Life, and I had little baby twins at home and a 4-year-old. We have our kids are 10, 6, and 6. We have twins that are 6, and we have our oldest is 10 years old. And during that time, I had a little boy and then little bitty twins. Our company was growing like crazy. We had recently won Best New Product for the desktop collection at the National Stationery Show, the biggest stage for my industry, and things were going really well. We found our Simplified planners were being carried in over 800 stores around the world, which sounds just incredible to say out loud, but to live was really hard. I was on 48 airplanes the year that all of this was coming to fruition. I had another book deal in the works. On paper, everything was fantastic. Everything was wonderful. But I knew that it was time for a change. It was time for a change. I knew I couldn't keep that up, and I wasn't sure what that looked like. I knew that it was time to make some decisions. And so, in a very calculated way, we decided to pivot. We're going to dig into pivoting and what that looks like a little bit later in this discussion, but I want to explain this particular pivot to you because it's pretty paramount to all of the things we're going to discuss. We made the very calculated decision to focus all of our team's efforts on our direct-to-consumer shop, so on our online shop. This is not something people were doing as much as we were in the industry at the time in 2017. A lot of stationery companies and office product companies that were small, like ours, were going wholesale, which we thought was what was required to be successful. You go wholesale. You're in boutiques and retail stores around the world, and that's what we did. And so it was an almost counterintuitive thing to look around and say, what are our options? Do we have to keep going the way we're going, or is there a better way? Is there a simpler way? And this is the question I love to ask of all scenarios. Is there a simpler way for us to do business, for us to be successful, but in a simpler way, and for us to serve our purpose, our core, in a better way? And so, in a very calculated way, we decided to cut our wholesale program. We decided to stop selling to boutiques and small retail stores because we wanted to serve our purpose better. We wanted to connect direct to consumer, directly to those customers that were purchasing our planners. We wanted to be able to be there throughout their journey, to help answer their questions, to really use our time, our most valuable resource, in a wonderful way to serve them, instead of spending all of our time serving the wholesale marketplace. And what I found to be so interesting was a very scary decision. We cut 40% of our revenue. But we knew that 80-20 rule, that if we focused our limited time on that small 20% that was producing 80% of our revenue, if we focused on that, then we could make something magic happen. And what was so interesting was all of those retail store owners, those fellow small business owners, many of them female. I did not receive one negative comment back. I received so many emails from small business owners saying, this is a brave thing to do for you, for your purpose, for your family, for your team, for your customers. I wish I could do something like this. I wish I could do something like this. And I found that to just be so encouraging and so inspiring. So our big pivot, we cut 40% of our revenue, and the following year, after devoting all of that time we were spending over here onto this piece where we had higher profit margin, better communication with our customers, we doubled our revenue from the year prior. We doubled our revenue. That was a pivot that went really, really well because it was rooted in purpose. It was rooted in something that is not changing. Now, I say all of this to you and tell you this story to hopefully inspire you to clarify your messaging, to connect with your people where they are, to find ways in your most profitable arenas where you are serving your purpose the best, to amplify things, to turn up the volume rather than turning, while you turn down the volume on the things that are taking away. Okay. Now, as you are getting clear on your purpose individually and for your organization, now is the time to think about decluttering. Now, I own an organizational company and we teach organizing and simplifying and decluttering, but I truly believe that even in business, if we constantly look around and think, is there a way for me to do this in a more simple way? Or is there a way for me to do this in a more simple and effective way? Then that can be truly very powerful during the best days and especially during these tough times. So, decluttering, what that looks like is going through your mental checklist, going through your offices physically, whether you're working from home or in an office building, and going through your calendar and your company's commitments and things that they're involved with. When a crisis happens, we have to make sure that our limited amounts of time and our limited amounts of energy are being spent on what is most effective and most profitable to keep things afloat. Now, how do we do this? It's honestly as simple as a yes-no list. You're going to sit down with a list with two sides. You're going to have yes on one side and no on the other. And you're going to ask yourself, during this season, what are we going to say yes to as an organization, and what are we going to say no to? The yes gets an enthusiastic yes. It gets your team's time and commitment and attention, and the no's are unapologetic. you respectfully decline those things. You cancel those things. You pull out of those things to allow yourself, your time, and your energy to be spent on the things that will make the biggest impact for your company and for the people you serve. Now, let's chat about my favorite topic, planning. We are going to talk about sticking to the plan. It's very easy when these kinds of things happen to scramble, to want to maybe change things in a ginormous way, or it can be, sometimes we think like we have to completely change what we're doing. We have to completely change the game. But I challenge you during a difficult time to stick to the plan, to stick to what you know for sure. Now, I just released a book called Growing Boldly, Dare to Build a Life You Love. And in this book, we talk about knowing things for sure. When all else in life is uncertain, when a pandemic hits, or you have a crisis of some sort or a tragedy of some sort, you will fall back on what you know for sure. So allow that foundation to firm itself up before a situation like this arises. So I challenge you, what is it that you know for sure? What is it that you know for sure? I personally know this. No matter what is going on in the world, women will always have lots of things to do and lots of people to care for. Simplifying life is always important during the best of days and the hardest of days. What else do I know for sure? I know for sure that I will outwork anyone. Working hard has never been hard for me. What's been hard for me is remembering to rest. Those are things I know for sure. Oprah was once asked this question by a very famous TV interviewer, and he asked her, "What do you know for sure?" at the end of their conversation. And she actually said, "I don't know, but I'm going to spend the next few months figuring out what I know for sure, because that's what I'm going to fall back on when times are tough. I will fall back on what I know for sure." So I'm going to ask you, as we discuss planning and making decisions for your company during good and bad times, what is it that you know for sure? Now, as we said, if you have a plan, stick to it. If you don't, it's time to make one. Now, what does that look like tactically? I love a good inspirational story, but at the end of the day, I need you to tell me exactly how to do it. I love tactical tips. Now, for Simplified, we keep our big plan in the form of a master calendar. It is a master calendar that lives in a project management system we use called Asana. That's ASANA. And in this project, in our master calendar, we have everything scheduled in terms of product releases, press appointments, interviews, book releases, emails being sent, text messages being sent to our community, social media posts. All of these things live in this one place. That is how you make a solid plan. You have one master plan that everyone is connected to, that is flexible and fluid, but is planned in such a way that all the details live in one place and allows everyone in your organization to be on the same page. This has been really game-changing for us, keeping everything in one spot. Planning ahead in any way gives us a standard. It gives us that clear path forward, that default that we can fall back on, the things we know for sure. We know that X, Y, and Z are happening on these specific days. It gives us that thing we know for sure that we can fall back on. We also just started implementing something that has been game-changing for Simplified, and that is batch planning. Now, if you've never heard of batch planning, I'm about to change your life because it has really, really been helpful for us. Batch planning is something that we do once every 6 months. Now, this type of time frame may not work for your organization. You might need to do them more, closer in between, maybe more frequent. But batch planning is where our whole team blocks an entire day. We come together for one whole day, sometimes two, depending on how granular we get, and we plan 6 months at a time on this master calendar. That means every email has been storyboarded, every product launch has been detailed as we can get it. That means everybody's individual tasks underneath those important days have been detailed so everyone knows what's expected of them. When COVID started in early 2020, we had batch planned the first half of the year, Q1 and Q2, in December of 2019. So what did this mean for us? It meant that even though things were changing so quickly, and many members of my team suddenly had children at home doing virtual school, and the planner market in general was just changing so quickly, we knew things for sure. We had these things already mapped out so that as we navigated all these tricky things, we had a plan to fall back on. We knew what needed to get done to continue to execute all of our tasks, to continue to move our company forward in the best way possible. So batch planning, can't recommend it enough. It's been extremely, extremely helpful. As you do it, as you have these big pieces that fall into place, break them down granularly so that you have as much detail as possible there. Okay, third, pivoting. We've talked about a huge pivot for Simplified for our company, but it's so important to pivot quickly and strategically when necessary. We have seen so many good examples of companies pivoting during this pandemic and shifting the way that they're doing things to better serve the community at large, but also to stay afloat, right? We started seeing some memes, some funny, little graphics circulating social media and the internet during early 2020 that said, the worst purchase I made in 2020 was a planner. To which we said, oh, no. But we did get nervous because this core product that makes up such a large piece of our company's revenue was suddenly being discussed as obsolete, with so many plans getting canceled left and right. And so we had a product launch that happened in April. We pivoted to bring that up a little bit to happen earlier in the month. We also pivoted our efforts to begin offering and serving our community in a better way, in a way that was focused on our core, connected to our purpose, still in line with our plans. We started putting out content about navigating life in a crisis, about how to plan, how to organize things when everything feels uncertain, like it's changing every minute as it was, and utilizing tools for automation when our many responsibilities have become overwhelming. We also had a surplus of a particular planner, a Simplified teacher planner that we had made for teachers. We had a surplus of those, and we marked them down from, I believe they're $60. We marked them down to $10. It helped us move a ton of inventory that we had left over, and it also served our community so well. It provided a place where all of these new parents that were navigating virtual learning and homeschooling, it gave them a tool at an extremely much lower price than it's typically offered at. It made it accessible to them, and it served them well. And the content we put out served them well as well. And so we pivoted very quickly. We decided we were going to serve our people the best way possible and utilize everything we had at our disposal to help our community, our customers, get through this tricky time, as we did as well. So I challenge you to look around at all of the things that are going on and, during a pandemic or during just an extremely difficult time, and reimagine. Now is the time to reimagine. When things change as drastically and as quickly as they did last year and are still changing, now's the time for us to reimagine how we're doing things. Maybe, the most dangerous words in business are, we've always done it this way. Maybe now is the time for us to find new, reimagined, innovative ways for us to generate revenue and serve people in an amazing way. One example I read about was Spotify, which we all know and love, Spotify. They seem to be poised to do really well during a pandemic, right? Everyone was at home. They were working from home with their children. Listening to music at home would have been ideal. That would have been great. They seemed poised to do really well. But if you dig a little deeper, people who listen to Spotify for free, which is a huge portion of their listeners, they are shown or played ads from large companies. And the ads were the revenue generator. Well, as companies started pivoting quickly, many of them pulled ads. And so Spotify's revenues took a big hit. So Spotify began creating original content in their original podcasts. And many of the podcasts we know and love are now exclusive to Spotify as exclusive original content, which has a much higher margin than, say, playing ads during music for free customers on free accounts. And so I just thought that was one wonderful way that a very big company pivoted very quickly and has grown since then. We also saw pivots in terms of restaurants offering curbside pickup. We saw digital ordering for many places. We even saw some of our favorite fitness platforms and gyms take their classes online. And so suddenly, a lot of things became more accessible, and companies began looking at ways that they could offer their services in new and innovative ways. And I believe many of these pivots will last long past the time that the pandemic eventually, hopefully, fades away. So I challenge you to take a look around at your company. What are ways that you could pivot now to better serve your purpose, better align with your plans, and also simplify the way that you are doing things? I have so enjoyed this conversation, and I want to close us out here with just a couple of actionable tips, a couple of action steps that you can take after this is over in looking at your own company and evaluating what ways you can pivot, what ways you can connect better with your purpose, and how you can plan in a way that will set you up for success the next time a crisis or something difficult happens. So, number one, write out your personal why and your businesses. Write it down. And if it becomes kind of long, make it simpler. Start taking out words. Get more specific until you have a very succinct purpose statement, a mission statement for yourself and for your organization. This will be your gut check when you make decisions. Number two, write out 2 to 3 wild revenue generating ideas. You can do this individually or as a team, but rethinking the way we're doing things and realizing that we have more choice and more agency to make decisions and to pivot, that is really, really powerful. Number 3, make that yes or no list. That yes list, that no list, and declutter all of the things your organization is committed to and involved in so that you can focus on those things that are the most profitable and the most impactful. And lastly, this is so important. We've talked a lot about doing the work, making the decisions, planning, pivoting, doing those hard things, right? This is so important, and we have to honor how important that is in business and in life. But let's also honor the rest, the nourishment, the white space on our calendars, the way that we are going to take care of ourselves and our people, the way that we're going to fill ourselves up so that we can then operate out of that overflow and love our people well, take care of our responsibilities well, and do great work. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the live Q&A. My name is Allison Romer. I'm the director of the Business Resiliency and Innovation Center here at the Florida SBDC. I really hope you're enjoying the day so far. We've had a lot of great content from all of our speakers. Right now, I'm so excited to be here with our keynote, Emily Lay. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am so great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we are so excited. We just had a great session right before this. And so now let's get started with some questions. For those of you joining us, feel free to post in the polls and we will get to as many of them as we can. So first up, Emily, tell us a little more about your business journey and how you started out, how large your company is now.
Yeah. All the things.
Yeah, the past 10 years or so.
Absolutely. We are actually about to celebrate our 13th year in business. And it's just surreal to say that because my business started as a dream, like many of yours. And I am the founder and CEO of a company called Simplified. We make planners and organizational tools for busy women. I'm also an author and a new podcaster. So, Simplified was started 13 years ago. I really was thirsty for a tool to help me manage life as a busy working mother. I was working out of my guest room while also working a full time job. And very long story short, now our company has just grown and grown and grown, and we have a team of 9 incredible women and a multi-million-dollar company with an online store as well as licensed products in Target and Walmart and a bunch of other places. And I think what makes us different and what has really helped us succeed, especially this last year, is that we don't just make products. We are all about cultivating community and really empowering our customers and connecting them and giving them the tools they need outside of the products they purchase from us so that they can truly achieve a fresh start.
Well, I personally am a big fan, and I have my new planner sitting at home
Thank
ready
you.
for August to come around so I can, start using it.
Break it in.
Um, so next up, so in your presentation, you talked a lot about, your company's core values. So, what is the best way to go about establishing, articulating, and communicating, your company's values?
That's a great question. I think that this has been a vital piece of the way that we run Simplified. Um, Early on, I knew that I wanted to create something that was different, that was founded in something heartfelt. I didn't want to just sell products. It's a lot of work to just sell products, and there's a lot of planner companies out there. So I wanted to create something that was really unique and really tied to what makes me put my feet on the floor every morning. And while I could probably give you a very fancy answer that all the business textbooks would tell you, for me, it is that thing that I come back to every day. Like, why in the world do I do these hard things? And why have we worked so hard to build what we've built? And oddly enough, this chair was just occupied by a 6-year-old who is not feeling well today. He is now in the other room, but um, that's it for me. Like I've just always wanted to be able to do life well as a working mother and take care of all the different sides of my life and all the different hats that I wear. And so I think what's most important when you come up with your core values is it's just that thing that like lives in you. And you don't have to have a necessarily a heartfelt company. Maybe you're selling shoes, but you really care about people being healthy and being able to exercise and being able to move their bodies. Whatever it is that you really deeply care about from the get-go, not when you're 10 years in and you've done all these cool things, but like in the very beginning, that thing that just really, really burns inside of you, it doesn't change. I mean, even now that Simplified is what it is, I still have the flexibility to stay home with the kiddo and do a keynote on Zoom. And that for me matters a lot. Like that really matters. So I think just knowing those, communicating those, and protecting those is super, super important, not just to get your messaging out to other people, but to protect the integrity of what you're doing.
So it's one thing to put that out publicly, but what do you do if your team isn't on board with that same purpose that you feel is so important for your company?
That is a great question. And that starts 10 steps before you end up with a team that doesn't care as much as you do. We've grown Simplified really slowly. We are a debt-free company. We have been for 13 years. We the women who work with me, many of them have been around for 5 or 6 years. They've been around a long time. And it's because I hire first for integrity and character and belief in the core values of what we do, and second for resume. Because I think you can teach anybody anything, but you can't teach that kind of integrity where people will stay up late or stay late, work late if they need to. That kind of thing is really special, especially given the way that we run our company completely remotely. And so if you are in a position where you have people on your team that may not be on board, I think it's first and foremost just very important to communicate what it is that matters most and the way that you believe business should be done. And the people who aren't on board will eventually fall away.
I'm glad you bring up working remotely because that's something I guess you were obviously doing before COVID. But so you were prepared, but so for all of our businesses out there, what's your advice for keeping your team connected and engaged in this
Yeah.
remote environment?
Gosh, these are all such good questions. That has been really important to me as we grew. Especially at first, it was my people that I was working with were people locally because we were shipping planners out of my living room. As we've grown, we've been able to bring on teammates who are all over the country. And so the core value of what we do is so important, and the heart of it that we just stay connected. We have a group text, just very simple. We just have a group text that kind of runs wild all the time. We use a program called Asana for project management to hold everything there. And we have one-on-ones frequently to talk about both work and personal goals and how things are going and how we can improve and better support each other. And to be quite honest, we're all really close friends. I mean, I've heard before that you're not supposed to be friends with the people you work with or employ, and I kind of think that's baloney. I've found it to be really helpful to know what gets them up in the morning, to know what makes them happy and what makes them frustrated. And so I think that has been really important. We were on Zoom way before Zoom was cool. I wish I had invested in Zoom back when we thought it was cool. But just having weekly face to face like this is really valuable. And then when we all can get back together again, we do plan to have some in-person time as well.
I think we're all looking forward to that
Mhm.
in-person time.
Yeah.
So so having been in business for a while, um, what is I guess one thing you found really challenging in the early days as you were launching, and
Yeah.
kind of to go along with that, like looking back, what's the one piece of advice you would give yourself as a new startup?
Oh man. I have like two answers for this. And I just wrote a book called Growing Boldly that came out recently, and it's kind of about the answer to this question because I think it's really important to value both the hustle that is required in starting a business. I mean, every single person here can agree it takes so much blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice to create something out of nothing, or to run a small company at all. Um, for me, I have had to learn the hard way, if you will, to value the hustle. That's not ever my problem. I will outwork anybody in the room. My problem has been knowing when to turn it off and when to step back and slow down, and that the seasons of rest and recuperation are equally as important as the times where we have to stay up late, we have to do the work, we have to be on 48 airplanes in a year or whatever. For me, I've had to learn that it's equally important to take care of myself. And so if I had to go back and tell younger entrepreneurial Emily anything, I would tell her to put in the work, but also take time to take care of yourself, because burnout is no good for yourself. It's not good for your team. It's not good for your customers or for your brand at all. So yeah, it's just both of those things.
Uh, Such great advice. So how can I serve my customers well in a time when I'm just trying to keep my business afloat?
That ugh, yeah, we all have worried about that over the past year, haven't we? How do we connect with them? Especially I recently gave a keynote to a nonprofit organization here locally, and they're used to holding events and being in person and having donor lunches and things like that, but they can't. So the same question was brought up, how do I connect with them and continue to maintain those relationships when I'm not able to? And I think it's so important to just meet people where they are. Like, where are you getting your information when you can't be with people in person? Where are you looking for where are you shopping? Maybe that means that you boost your online presence. Maybe that means that you start that social media account. Maybe that means that you're just emailing constituents and customers a little bit more often. But being able to pivot quickly and strategically, I think, is so important, not just during the rare global pandemics, but also just the day-to-day stuff that comes up when something goes wrong, or when you just have to kind of change course.
Um, let's see. Let me find a good one here. So what would you focus on, I guess, when thinking about, well, this says opening a second branch or location, but maybe when thinking about expanding a product line
Yeah.
or.
Yeah. What would you consider when doing that?
Mhm.
I've always operated under the guise of grow slowly but grow smart, and for that reason, so kind of like I mentioned in the keynote, we had a period of time where we overextended ourselves and we went wholesale, and we were in 800 stores around the world, and it sounded amazing, but it was misery to live. And we kind of had to backstep a little bit and say, like, what does success look like? Like, does it look like having our planners in every store on every block, or does it look like having an online store where the profit margin is so much higher, and as teammates running this thing, we're able to live lives that aren't overextended? And that, to us, was the answer. Now, we did a couple years later decide that we would try our hand at creating an app, and that I mean, we were doing great with paper planners, so why not expand into digital? And we quickly realized we were in over our heads, that managing something like that was going to take way more work than we thought, than we realized in the beginning. And so I realized, looking back, that I had made that decision to pursue that expansion out of a dollars centric mindset, more than a community, serve our people well, what is your core value, what does success look like for you, more than that mindset. I don't really like to admit that, but but for me, I think you just have to kind of question your gut a little bit and say, am I making this decision for the right reasons? And if you are, then go for it. But if you're making it thinking like, I just need to do more, 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 it's time to pause maybe and reevaluate.
Well, I think that's the perfect segue into our next question. Let's see. Your story is so inspiring. How do you balance research versus faith when making a business decision? Everyone is going digital, yet you found a product that goes in a different direction and made it work.
I think my husband just walked in the door, but he would tell you, when I first decided to create a paper planner, he looked at me like I had three heads. He was like, "What do you mean? Everyone uses iCal. Why would you make a paper planner?" And I said, "Well, not everyone. I like to have a list. I like the feeling of crossing things off. I just do. And I think there's more people like me. And iCal really isn't helping me achieve a fresh start and have real change in my life. It's just a tool. And so I also believe in going brave, not blind. So, taking risks and being entrepreneurial about things and having faith, but also making sure you crunch every number before you make a decision. I'll never forget when we first started printing planners in the amounts that had commas in them, and versus the ones that didn't. And I remember thinking, like, okay, we need to crunch every number, know every single scenario possible, so that no matter how this goes, we're prepared for it. So brave, not blind.
Well, we're getting a lot of questions about your staff and the makeup of your team, but we've got just a couple minutes left. So, one is, how do you recognize your staff, and how do you foster loyalty among them?
Oof, that's good. I think the loyalty comes from the fact that I desire to have flexibility as a working mom, and I extend that to them as well. It goes back to hiring the highest integrity people that there ever was, and it's never been an issue for us, because on the front end of hiring, we were just so very careful. In terms of loyalty, I think that we run our company different. Like when I was in corporate America, I remember looking around and being like, none of this makes sense to me. Like why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Couldn't this be simpler? Couldn't we do this way? Couldn't we, you know, I don't know. I just remember being very frustrated. And so when starting my own company, I thought, what if we just did it differently? Like what if we just loved on our people and had personal phone calls to check in on how their kids are doing after their first day of kindergarten, and what if we sent Starbucks $5 Starbucks gift cards every now and then when we know someone's having a rough time. My team is very willing to jump in for the person that's overwhelmed too, and I think that helps a lot. Everyone from like at every level in every role will jump in. I mean, I had someone today who was very overwhelmed trying to get a production situation taken care of. And I was like, give your other project to me. I will do it. I will jump in. And that matters, you know?
That whole not being or being willing to take on anything you'd ask somebody else to
Yeah,
do.
like a team, you know? Yeah.
And so one more about your staff. Can you talk a little bit about the composition of your support team?
Yeah. So we're all women, not intentionally, it's just kind of happened that way. We have a chief operating officer who's been with me now for 6 years. She's amazing. We have a creative director. We have a director of digital marketing. We're all directors. I believe in that you are the director of your own domain. We also have an administrative director, someone that manages our community development. I'm leaving someone out. We have our art director, who is an incredible artist. And then we have someone who is in charge of content marketing. And so everyone kind of manages their own little piece of the pie, and everyone has a ton of input on all the things. And we shift regularly, like where are the holes, who's overwhelmed, do we need to change a title? Does somebody need to take a class and learn how to do something? We pivot when we need to, so that we can grow and kind of go with the flow as things change and evolve around us.
Well, just to wrap us up here, tell everyone, I know you mentioned your products are Target, Walmart. Where else can they find your planners? And we did have a lot of asks for Simplified for Men. So I just give you that opportunity to clarify.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I am just so proud to be a small business owner and to be on this journey and to have been asked to come here and talk with you guys. You can find me and our brand at emilylay.com. We have our signature line of planners there and our Dapper Desk planners, which are very minimal and might be what you're looking for if you're looking for something a little bit less happy stripe. And on social media at Emily Lay and also at Simplified. And we just launched the Simplified podcast that releases every week, little bite size, how to simplify different areas of life. And then I wrote a whole bunch of books, and they're all out there too.
All right. Well, thank you, Emily, so much for being here. Such a powerful presentation, great conversation. Thank you and have a great evening, everyone. And thank you again, Emily. This has been great.
Thank you so much.